After a man named Ann Vaughn beats up some men inside a building, a detective named Russels takes his team there to check out what's happening. As they enter the building, they see some dead bodies lying on the ground, and this leaves them shocked. Almost immediately, Ann drags a dead body into the room, and the cops quickly point a gun at him. Russels then tells Ann to drop the dead body, and as he does this, he raises his hands to surrender.
This is my son, Benison.
Shortly after, Ann is taken to an interrogation room so he can be asked some questions. As Russels gets there, Ann hears a voice telling him to inform the detective about the end times. Ann ignores the voice, and after a while, Russels asks for his name. Ann says he's John Doe, but Russels looks pissed and mentions that he's not there to joke around or play games. Ann says it's what he wants to be called, but Russels looks confused. He then tells Ann to think of him as a friend because he wants to help. He adds that he and his men found Ann in the building surrounded by 18 dead bodies, with no one else in sight.
Something is wrong.
He also mentions that while he understands that Ann might be innocent, he just wants to know what really happened in the building. Ann still remains silent, and Russels mentions that he's also ready to listen to Ann if he has a confession to make, as he says that God is always listening, and asks if God can forgive the devil. Russels assumes that Ann is taking responsibility for killing the dead men, and he says that he wants to know what really happened. Ann still refuses to say anything, but Russels looks through his file and mentions that his team report states that they found Ann's belongings in the security room.
It's over. Where's Benison?
He then asks if Ann is a security guard, but he mentions that he's a night watchman. Russell says they can start from there, and he asks when Ann's employment began, and then narrates how he heard a random radio message while he was looking for a place to stay. The message stated that anyone willing to become a night watchman at an abandoned hospital will be given food and shelter for free. Since Ann badly needs both things, he looks for the abandoned hospital and heads in to look for the person who recorded the message. Almost immediately, he meets a man named Boon Nam.
With me?
Who asks who he is, and then plays the recorded message, and Boon Nam says he was the one who sent it out. He adds that he didn't expect anyone to come because most people who come there have lost hope in life and doesn't seem to care, and he just asks if the job is still available. After taking a look at him for a while, Boon Nam says it's available and that he's sure Ann will do just fine. As he then decides to show Ann around, a lady named Jeanette and her son, Benison, appear in the corner of the room, and they stare at the new night watchman strangely.
You're wearing Boonam's amulet.
Shortly after, Boon Nam shows in his room, but they find a girl named DeWitt sitting inside. Boon Nam looks shocked and asks what she's doing there, and DeWitt says she's watching her mom. Boon Nam then introduces Ann to DeWitt and says that her mom is mentally ill. DeWitt also confirms this, but Boon Nam tells her to pack her things because she can't stay there anymore. As he mentions that it's now Ann's room, DeWitt looks surprised and asks Ann if he's the new night watchman. Ann says he is, and Boon Nam tells DeWitt again that she can't leave her things inside the room. He also tells Ann to meet him in the canteen later so that he can have something to eat. After he leaves the room, DeWitt stares at Ann strangely and eventually asks if he has ever fought before. Ann says he'll fight if he has to, but DeWitt still asks if he's good at it. Suddenly, Ann remembers a moment from his past in which he beat up some men from a rival gang. He then tells DeWitt that fighting only causes pain, and that's why he had to learn to control himself and avoid fights. DeWitt thinks he's just a night watchman who is scared of fighting.
What are we gonna do? He's gonna die.
But Ann doesn't respond to her. After she leaves his room, he suddenly hears footsteps outside and decides to check who's there. Interestingly, it turns out to be Jeanette and Benison, who is sitting in a wheelchair. Ann looks confused when he sees them outside his room, but Jeanette asks if N is the new night watchman. As he says that he is, Jeanette mentions that he has come at a bad time of the month. She adds that it's the month of the Phantasma Briento, but Ann doesn't know what this means. Jeanette says it's about hungry ghosts, and Ann asks if his job involves looking for ghosts.
Where death is within inches from you.
Jeanette then mentions that ghosts aren't what they're afraid of in the building. Anne doesn't get this, but Jeanette properly introduces herself and her son. She also says that they're truly grateful to have Anne around, especially at night, because that's when evil comes in. Almost immediately, Jeanette wheels her son away, and Anne looks confused because he doesn't understand what she said. Shortly after, he heads to the canteen and meets Boon Nam again.
And where are you gonna go?
Boon Nam then says that he wishes they had some money to pay On for his services, and says he's just happy to get some food because he currently can't afford a meal. Boon Nam then jokes about the food in the canteen being bad, but the cook, Charlotte, doesn't like this. Boon Nam says he was only joking and that he's sure and won't have any problems with his job because no one comes in anymore since the children started going missing. Anne asks what he's talking about, and Boon Nam says it's part of a prophecy that evil will grow stronger when kids start going missing.
This ends tonight.
Boon Nam then mentions that An was hired to protect them in case things get worse, and asks for more information regarding the missing children, and Boon Nam says that the kids were taken away by ghosts while they were sleeping, and sounds concerned about the ghosts, but Boon Nam mentions that he's not really sure. He adds that he only believes they're ghosts because the way the kids go missing is unexplainable. As An asks where they come from, Boon Nam says he doesn't know. He then gives An a spiritual amulet and says that it wards off evil ghosts and demons.
She's waiting for some supper from...
Charlotte hears him talking about the amulet, and she says that no one wears it because it doesn't work. Boon Nam seems offended by this, but he just tells Anne that the amulet's protection comes from a god named Hanuman. Charlotte still doesn't trust the amulet, but Boon Nam tells Anne to keep it in his pocket. Suddenly, Jeanette and Benison get to the canteen, and Boon Nam introduces them to Anne. Anne says he met them earlier, and Boon Nam mentions that Jeanette always keeps her son close to her because she doesn't want to lose him. As Boon Nam then sees Benison sitting with his friend Dylan, he says it's a pity that the kids have to grow up in a crazy world.
Right now?
And still seems worried about the ghosts, and he asks Boon Nam what they do with the abducted kids. Even though Boon Nam isn't sure about what's happening to the kids, he implies that they're in serious danger. As An thinks about this, Boon Nam just tells him to eat his food already. Later that night, while Anne is moving around the building, he thinks about what Boon Nam and Jeanette told him earlier, and he wonders if they're hiding something from him.
I give you life.
After a while, he sees a Santa Maria statue at the end of the hallway, and as he moves closer, he hears a voice telling him that evil lies inside the walls of the building. Anne looks confused by this, but when he gets to the front of the statue, the voice gets clearer and mentions that the end times are near. Anne looks shocked by this, and he wonders if the voice is coming from the statue. Shortly after, Anne falls asleep and relives a moment from his past in his dream. That day, the leader of Anne's gang confronted him about his fight with the rival gang.
Give me the boy.
The gang leader believed it was unnecessary, and he set up On to be beaten by the members of the other gang. On doesn't seem scared of them, and he beats them again, leaving his boss shocked. Almost immediately, On wakes up from his sleep, looking worried. After he leaves the room, he sees a lady crying in front of two cops who are in the building. Boon Nam then tells On that another child has gone missing, and that no one knows if the ghosts are responsible. He also seems pissed that the cops are around, and he tells On that they don't really care what happens in the building.
Doesn't matter. Whatever we find next.
On asks if the missing child was taken away the previous night, and Boon Nam confirms this. However, he mentions that Anne doesn't have to be worried because no one blames him for what happened. Anne then complains about a smell in the building, but Boon Nam doesn't seem to understand what he's talking about. Suddenly, Benison shows up behind them and asks if Dylan was the kid who was taken away the previous night. Anne says he doesn't know, but Benison mentions that he has to go and find Dylan because he's afraid that his friend is missing.
There is no other god.
Before An says anything, Jeanette finds her son and scolds him for leaving her side. Benison says he was looking for Dylan, but Jeanette mentions that the crying woman isn't Dylan's mom, and then asks how he didn't see the people who took the missing kid, but Jeanette tells him not to blame himself. She also tells him to come to her apartment when he's free because she has something for him, and says he'll come by later, and he walks away after complaining about the strange smell again. Later that day, Anne goes to Jeanette's apartment, and she welcomes him in. She then offers to give him an offering bowl, which everyone leaves outside their rooms so that the spirits who died inside the building can protect the children.
So they came for you this time, huh?
Anne says he has seen the bowls around, and that he's surprised to see that people really believe in things like that. Jeanette then notices that he's wearing Boon Nam's amulet, and she wonders if he believes in it. Almost immediately, Anne takes off the amulet and says that he doesn't believe in things like that. Jeanette decides to forget about the topic, and she asks if Anne was hired because he can fight. Anne says that everyone is hoping he can do that, and Jeanette asks if he has ever been a night watchman. Anne says he hasn't, and Jeanette mentions that they'll have to settle for what they can get.
I'm not looking for forgiveness.
Anne then asks if she knows who's responsible for the kidnappings, but Jeanette says she has no idea. She adds that she has only heard about someone named Mephisto. Suddenly, Russell interrupts Anne's story and looks shocked to hear the name Mephisto. As he then asks Anne what else he heard, he mentions that it was something about the Four Horsemen and their plan to use the souls of the children to bring about the end times. He adds that Mephisto is their leader and that he plans to sacrifice the kids when evil is strong enough. Russell doesn't believe this, and he mentions that his team didn't find out something like that, and insists that he's telling the truth. And he mentions that the only way to stop the apocalypse is to kill the Four Horsemen. However, he says that the problem they'll have is that the horsemen look the same as everyone else. As Anne says that the Four Horsemen look like him and Russell's, the detective just tells him to go back to his story, and then mentions that after finding out about the Four Horsemen, he made a decision to find and kill them. One night, while he was walking down the hallway, he hears Santa Maria's voice telling him that he's on the right track and that evil grows strong underground.
The children won't be alive much longer.
Anne doesn't understand this, but he ignores the voice and sees a child's picture near an offering bowl. After picking it up to take a look at the boy in the photo, Anne feels sorry for him and puts it back down. Almost immediately, a mysterious hand shows up near the bowl and tries to touch him. Anne quickly moves his hand away, and as the mysterious hand disappears, he looks shocked because he doesn't understand what just happened. As he then continues doing his rounds, he checks the basement and sees a secret door down there. He initially decides to open it, but as he gets a feeling that something evil is happening behind the door, he steps back. Suddenly, the mysterious hand appears again out of nowhere, and Anne sees it pointing at the door. He looks shocked by this, and he hears Santa Maria telling him that she knows he can feel the evil inside the room, and that it's even calling him. Anne seems confused by this, and he eventually decides to leave the basement. As he does this, he sees three people in weird masks leaving someone's room with their child. Anne tells them to drop the child, but one of them just runs toward him to fight. Despite Anne's efforts to fight well, he gets stabbed and beaten up badly.
King of fighting.
He then starts losing a lot of blood before he passes out. Meanwhile, the abducted kid gets delivered to Mephisto, and he says that they're really close to completing their mission. Interestingly, Mephisto happens to be in the room with the other horsemen, Samael, the Oracle, and the Lich Knight. He then tells his colleagues that they have to continue working toward ushering in the apocalypse, as he says that they only need 2 more kids. One of his disciples, Gabriel, mentions that he thinks they're moving too fast. Samael seems pissed by this, and he nearly kills Gabriel for trying to tell the horsemen what to do. Elsewhere, Anne appears to be badly injured on the floor, and as he struggles to stay alive, Boon Nam and Jeanette carry him away and start taking care of him. Unfortunately, his condition worsens, and Boon Nam is forced to perform a ritual using An's blood. As Anne then goes unconscious, he finds himself in Hanuman's realm. Surprisingly, it turns out that Boon Nam's ritual has helped Anne summon Hanuman.
I will not fail this time.
to save him from dying. Hanuman looks surprised to see Anne in his realm, and he mentions that the Night Watchman probably doesn't know that there are certain things that are worse than death. Despite this, he says that he'll give Anne a second chance on Earth, but that the Night Watchman will have to do whatever he says. He adds that he'll summon Anne one day when he needs him. Suddenly, Anne wakes up in the real world and feels dizzy as he walks to the canteen. When he gets there, Boon Nam holds him before he falls and asks how he's doing. Anne just asks for Jeanette and says that he wants to thank her for helping him. Boon Nam mentions that Jeanette is currently busy and that An will meet her later. Boon Nam then asks how An is feeling, and he says that he's having a serious headache. As he also mentions that he's seeing things, Boon Nam says he'll get better soon. He then takes Anne to his room to show him the ritual he performed to get Hanuman to help him.
We lived in a regular house.
Anne asks if Boon Nam really believes in it, and he mentions that the rituals are mostly used for protection. However, he says that he sometimes wonders if they're protecting themselves from demons, ghosts, or even from themselves. Suddenly, An gets a flashback and remembers when he went to take down his gang after they refused to let him go peacefully. He then asks if Boon Nam has any ritual to stop him from hallucinating, but the old man doesn't get this. As Anne is about to leave, Boon Nam tells him not to forget that Hanuman needs a host. He adds that Hanuman may try to control Anne, but that the demon cannot kill him. Anne just walks away from the room, and while doing his rounds that night, Benison comes over to meet him. He then asks if Anne will help him find Dylan, and the Night Watchman says he will. Benison then mentions that he thinks Anne will be able to protect everyone because he's strong. Anne doesn't sound sure about this.
When I needed it most, you saved me.
But Benison tells him that he's a good man. Anne looks shocked by this, and he says that Benison is the first person to call him a good man. Benison then says that his mom always tells him to close his eyes when he meets someone new, so he can feel them and know more about them. Anne seems confused by this, but Benison tells him to try it. As Anne then closes his eyes, he remembers his past and hears Hanuman's voice telling him that he's a killer. Hanuman also mentions that Anne has to kill the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and anyone who stands in his way. As Anne opens his eyes, Benison says he can feel that the Night Watchman is a good person who is going to protect everyone in the building. Suddenly, Anne hears Hanuman's voice telling him that Benison is wrong, and just ignores the voice and tells Benison that he'll try to protect everyone. Almost immediately, Jeanette comes over to meet Anne, and he thanks her for helping him after he was badly beaten the other day.
I could save the children.
Jeanette says it's nothing, but Anne hears Hanuman's voice again, telling him that if Jeanette stands in his way, he'll also have to kill her. Anne looks confused by this, and he tells Jeanette and Benison to go to their room. Later that night, a small group led by the Oracle arrives at the building to kidnap another child. After they fill the hallway with anesthetic gas, they snatch Benison from his mom's arms while she's sleeping. On their way out, Anne sees them and tells them to drop Benison, but Gabriel just charges toward him and beats him up. As Anne looks really weak, Gabriel tells the others that they can now leave. Almost immediately, Hanuman gives An the strength to stand up and fight back so that he can fulfill his end of their deal. As he stands up, Gabriel looks shocked and attacks him again, but An kills him easily. Before he goes after the Oracle, Hanuman lays his hand on An's soul and starts consuming it. Anne goes down in serious pain, and the Oracle manages to escape with Benison.
So I just came right out and made a deal with you.
Suddenly, Russell interrupts Anne again and asks if he really made a deal with the devil, who consumes his soul every time he fights, and clarifies that Hanuman is the death god, but Russell asks how he managed to get the deal done. Anne says he doesn't know, but that it was likely part of what Boon Nam did when he tried to save him. Russell wonders if it's a curse, but Anne says it might not seem like that to some people. As Russell then asks what happened next, Anne continues his story and remembers Jeanette looking devastated about what happened. While he's alone, he then hears Hanuman telling him that his soul will gradually get consumed as he keeps killing people and spilling blood. Anne looks disappointed by this, and he stays inside his room throughout the day. Elsewhere, Benison is delivered to Mephisto, who locks him up with the other kids. Mephisto then says that they need one more child.
Comfortable, my children.
before they can complete the ritual. The Lich Knight believes they can start the ritual already, but Mephisto insists that they need one more child. Later that night, the Oracle and the Lich Knight work together to try to kidnap another child. Before they can do this, Anne shows up and attacks them. After knocking the Oracle to the ground, he kills the Lich Knight, and Hanuman starts consuming his soul again. As he appears to be in serious pain, the Oracle looks surprised and escapes to the basement. It then turns out that she and the others are actually operating from the secret room inside the basement. When she meets the others, she tells them about what happened and mentions that Anne has grown stronger. As she says that he's the work of the devil, Mephisto mentions that there's likely a demon inside his body. Samael looks confused by this, but Mephisto says that if they can kill Hanuman's host,
It's okay. It's okay. We'll come another time.
he'll die with the body. The Oracle seems worried about the possibility that Hanuman will have a human host, but Mephisto insists that if Hanuman's plan is to kill the four horsemen and stop the apocalypse, then they have to kill him first. Elsewhere, Anne sits in the basement and stares at the secret door. Jeanette eventually meets him there and asks if that's where the children were taken. Anne says there's evil lurking behind the door and that the children don't have much time. He adds that the only way he'll be able to help them is to give up what's left of his soul to Hanuman. Anne says it's a dangerous plan, but that he's willing to do it. Jeanette then asks what the squatters can do to help, but Anne mentions that they have to stay indoors and lock themselves inside a room. Later that night, Jeanette and the others do just as they're told, and Anne turns off the lights in the building to lure out Mephisto and his followers. As the lights go off, Mephisto looks really pissed, and Samael says he'll take care of the situation.
The deal was done without my assent.
Almost immediately, Samael takes some men with him to fight On. Even though On easily beats up the others, Samael happens to be too strong for him. As he badly beats up On, the squatters realize that something is wrong, and they decide to go out to help him. Just before Samael can kill An, the squatters show up and tell him to leave the night watchman. Samael realizes that he's outnumbered, so he runs back to the basement and says that he'll be back for them, and then stabs himself so he can go to Hanuman's realm again. When he gets there, Hanuman says that he can't just get himself killed to back out of their deal. However, On says that he actually came because he wants Hanuman to take what's left of his soul and make him powerful. Hanuman seems pleased by this, and he tells On to touch his staff to claim unlimited powers and return to the real world again. After On does this, he gets stronger and seems ready to fight Samael again. Elsewhere, Samael laments about how the squatters came to help Anne. As he says that he'll kill Anne the next time they meet, Mephisto and the Oracle give him a special potion that he can pour on Anne's body to neutralize his powers for a short time. Meanwhile, Jeanette sees Anne standing in front of the Santa Maria statue, and she says that she thought he was dead. Anne says he's okay, but Jeanette notices that he looks different, and then says that he's ready to get the kids back. And as Jeanette prays to the Santa Maria statue, he asks what she's doing. Jeanette says that when someone prays to Santa Maria, she can point the person in the right direction. Suddenly, Anne remembers seeing the mysterious hand that was pointing at the door in the basement. He also hears Santa Maria telling him that he can still save the children without losing his soul.
I'm gonna get the children back.
As On hears this, he runs to the basement and tells Santa Maria to show him where to go. The mysterious hand appears again and points at the door, and On decides to go inside to find the kids. After a while, he sees the Oracle with the abducted kids, but as he charges toward her, Samael stops him. Almost immediately, the two men start fighting, and while they're at it, Anne manages to kill the Oracle. Mephisto looks shocked by this, and he quickly escapes and leaves the kids alone. Samael then pours the special potion on Anne to weaken him. Surprisingly, the potion wears off easily, and Anne eventually kills Samael. As he then falls falls to the ground and starts hallucinating again. The kids come toward him, but he tells them to stay away. The kids don't listen to him, and Benison mentions that they're there to help him. After this, Anne regains his strength and carries Benison to meet Jeanette, while Dylan also gets reunited with his mom. Everyone looks happy about this, and Anne goes to kneel in front of the Santa Maria statue. Jeanette eventually meets him there.
What the hell are you talking about?
And she thanks him for saving the kids. Back in the present, Russell says he can see that Anne didn't kill Mephisto. Anne then mentions that he'll still do it because he knows that Russell's is Mephisto. Russell's looks shocked by this, but Anne mentions that Russell's stench gave him away and that he figured it out when the cops came to the building. Russell's says he can't just be accused because of a smell, but Anne mentions that he actually let himself get caught so he could be alone with Mephisto. Russell's then tries to escape, but Anne stops him and brutally kills him. Almost immediately, Anne hears Hanuman's voice telling him that he has completed the mission by killing the 4 horsemen and stopping the apocalypse. As Anne then remembers when he said goodbye to Jeanette, Boon Nam, and the other squatters in the building, Hanuman says that An's body now belongs to him. He then takes over An's body and calls himself the Harbinger of Pain and Suffering, whose aim is to claim more souls as the end time gets closer.
I'm still a Sith.
After killing his gang members and choosing to start a new life, and decides to become a night watchman at an abandoned hospital. Even though he hasn't been a night watchman before, and seems confident that he can do the job because he knows how well he can fight. Unfortunately, a kid mysteriously goes missing on his first night, and as he tries to figure out what happened, he realizes that the 4 horsemen are trying to use the kids in the building to perform a ritual to bring about the end times. Seeing as he's not strong enough to fight them, and willingly gives up his soul to Hanuman so he can become more powerful. With this, he's able to save the kids and take down the 4 horsemen, including Mephisto, who turned out to be Russell's.